Passionate with asking questions. Hey, we're gonna ask you a couple questions. Do you believe you can influence change in the world?
Yes, I highly believe that. How? Community organizing, talking to people in your community, getting out there, saying, hey, we need to unite. We need to not be divided on petty issues. We need to unite each other on shit that matters, that affects all of us, not that affects a select few.
Everything also starts with local government.
Yeah.
Participate in your local government and things will if you can get people participating in local government, things will change a lot more than you think they will.
What about you, Bracken?
Honestly, I think it's just about creating new ideas, finding influence in where you can, and getting people to rally, I guess.
Yeah, great. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I feel defeated here in Utah. I feel like my representatives don't represent me. I feel like I don't even feel like participating in any kind of vote because it's all bullshit. What do you think is the biggest problem in the United States today?
Income inequality.
Yeah.
We've
Do you want
got,
to shed some light on
yes I do. We have billionaires with tax breaks, trillion-dollar corporations getting tax breaks, while we, the people, are stuck in poverty. The middle class is disappearing. There's less money for the common man and more just being funneled to billionaires. People who have enough and they're lobbying and they pay the government, or not the government, but politicians to vote in their favor so that they get more tax breaks and they do better while we suffer.
So mine's like not necessarily just America, but like the world. Like everybody has, like take like religion for example. Like everybody thinks that they're right and are unwilling to like listen to everybody else. Like we need to come together. Like everybody is trying to separate themselves from everybody else.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems to me is a lot of big banking, big corporations, a lot of, I don't like to sound like that, but a lot of elitists, and that's where it really differentiates my presidential candidates from others is you don't want to find anyone who's controlled by, puppeteering and controlled by other people. So that's one of my biggest fears for America right now.
I feel like America is led by fear, and I feel like everyone's afraid to die, pretty much, and they're afraid they're gonna meet some false god who's gonna hold them to some kind of standard that's not real, and it's causing us to judge one another, put each other on some kind of level that's not real. What I know is that we're all human and we all make mistakes, and the judicial system is messed up. The judicial system totally is hypocritical. It calls everyone a criminal, and it doesn't even take into account that we all make mistakes. And we're so willing to throw anyone into some kind of prison that doesn't fit our system. So whether you're female, whether you're male, whether you're gay, whether you're a pot smoker, you should live your life free of any kind of outward judgment upon you, because all of those judgments are self-imposed fears, and I hope to live in a world where we're not biased by that.
We all do every single day that has a great impact on society.
Littering. Everybody's consuming everything.
I'm gonna go, I know there's no wrong answer, so I'm gonna go anti-answer and say it's what we're not doing as a community, as like a people. We're not involved. We I think as a whole feel that our voice doesn't matter, and that's why we're taken advantage of in this system. But really, all it takes for us is to stand up and say, we the people have the biggest voice, we have the power, we can change everything.
My biggest hope that I have every day is that I do have the power to change. I do have the power to help others live a more complete life. We live in such a great time where social media is totally influencing the way that we affect one another. We realize that we are all in this moment of despair, but there's so much hope because we can collectively build each other up and realize our dreams. I love America because it totally gives me the hope to make a difference.
Hello and welcome to Asking Questions. I'm your host, Ashton Lane, and if I may take a little bit of the immortal technique and...
Asking me to tone it down during the interview, trying to minimize the issue, but I'm keeping it large. I love the place I live, but I hate the people in charge. Speaking is hard.
I love the place I live, but I hate the people in charge. You know what I mean? So why are we so sold on the concept of authority? It is just a concept after all. Think about it. Why does authority seem to seduce people into exercising unrighteous dominion almost immediately? So here's a thought. Barbed wire is the physical manifestation of the violence that is property ownership. Why do we think we can buy the earth with dollars we make out of the trees that grow out of the earth? The land was here long before we were, and it'll be here long after we're gone. So why do we think that we can own it? We consume Earth's resources with a zombie-like appetite, and it's absolutely ignorance. Think about that word for a minute. It's defined as unawareness or unconsciousness, but the word ignorance is the act of ignoring. We have to change the whole system because the people have been trying to change it from within. They're getting bought out, and no matter how promising the agenda sounds before the election, we all know what happens afterwards. They get sucked into the game of the Illuminati monopoly, and there they are, another pawn puppet for us to point the finger at. But really, who's to blame? Society is a concept. There's no such thing as society. There's families and individuals. And you have people like Hillary Clinton that are quoting, we need to not focus on the individual, we need to focus on society. What makes up a society? What makes up a society? What's the smallest minority? The individual. There's families and individuals. You can say that you can group those together and say communities, societies, cities, towns, whatever. It's all the same thing. They're concepts. It's just a group of people. Ultimately, there's families and individuals. And if we focused on the individual, the sovereignty of the single human being and their rights to pursue life, liberty, and happiness, if we can work towards the best interest of the individual, every individual, starting from those that need the most help now, there's the Black Lives Matter movement. But guess what? Every life matters, and let's act on that. Let's act on every life matters. Let's bring everybody up by starting with those that need food, shelter, and the basic necessities of life. Because once everybody's basic needs are met, guess what the nature of man is going to be? Well, the nature of man when his basic needs are met, food, shelter, and love, then there's the nature of a person when one of those three things is not there. And they'll do whatever it takes to get it. But we can take the maliciousness out of society. The technology exists to feed the world with none of the waste and abuse that goes on in today. When we're over-consuming, but people are still starving. Doesn't that seem asinine? For a person to have a prejudice towards another individual, for whatever reason, they are first ignoring that person's individual sovereignty to their own life. The right to do the things they want to do, so long as it's not harming another individual. We are conditioned to think that differences are wrongs, but they're not. They're just differences, and we should be celebrating our differences because we're way more the same than we are different. We should enjoy those differences and not try to kill each other over them. We need to rethink the concept of authority. We need to rethink the concept of property ownership, especially when the government claims to own property. That's horseshit. The earth owns us. And you know what? We need the earth more than it needs us. You've probably seen that meme floating around the internet.